In this video, I want to talk to landlords who want to actually make more money using Airbnb strategies, because look, there's enough people right now who watch my videos who obviously start rent-to-rent service accommodation, rent-to-rent arbitrage, but there's also people who are buying properties and wanting to go, hey Piers, actually how do I make more cash flow? Now, in this video, just because I'm doing this, the reality is I've worked with landlords all over the UK, mostly like in Hull. Probably in the last 3 weeks, I've worked in in Stevenage who owns their property, and I find it quite fascinating how their properties are, they've always done normal let, they've watched some videos online, eventually worked with us, and what they want to do is, although they're an old school landlord, they want to make sure they attract the profit they want to, they also want to make it much more hands-free rather than a business. So in this video, look, if you're a landlord or if you're somebody who's looking to buy a property, this is a great video for you to watch and understand how you can use an Airbnb strategy to make yourself and your property more money. So as a real estate or a new landlord in the investment area, you are actually a lot ahead of your competition to start thinking differently. Not thinking about, oh, I've just bought a buy-to-let property, I'm just going to go and put it on a buy-to-let on a standard family rent or stuff where you get the normal market value. You've put as an investment, it's an asset, but also you want to think about how you're going to make yourself a lot more cash flow. So guys, certain things I want to talk about today first, and then also talk about how we've been working with a lot of clients, helping them turn their property into short-term rental, as a result of that, a lot more cash flow. So as an Airbnb landlord, I feel like sometimes people skip the thing of going, oh, there's so much little ventures, there's little factors that creates an Airbnb business. You've got a property investing strategy, you're buying a property, you're then going, oh, Piers, actually I don't fancy running a business, but it is a hospitality business. And then lastly but not the least, but look, you've got to put it on Airbnb booking.com. If you're really wanting some longer term booking, you've got to build your brand. So eventually you've got a lot more than just listing your property on the OTA. And today's video, I want to talk about firstly how you've got to think professionally as a business. The other thing I want to talk about is thinking profit. Reality is when you bought a property, the part of being asset, you've obviously even if you've got a mortgage in it for buy-to-let in the UK, you're putting anywhere between 25 to 30% on that property. And the reality is, look, you've also now going, well, I've bought this asset, it's going to have capital appreciation over the year, but it's also going to make you some cash flow, right? So thinking about profit is very, very important, but also actually having a profit calculator, something that we talk and grow Airbnb a lot. Look, there's enough tool out there to talk about nightly rates. There's enough videos out there to go and watch to find about nightly rates, but not a lot of people talk about profit. And at the end of the day, that is the bottom line. You are there to run your property as an Airbnb to make more money and more profit. So what are the things that gets involved in profit? So firstly, if you think about it, it is the cash flow, right? What is the cash flow in the business? What is the occupancy rate in the business? What can you potentially charge in terms of the nightly rate, or what I call the profit pricing? Completely different. Nightly rates, I'm all about, if you want a holiday let business in Newquay or somewhere in Cornwall, and you've got this property that is over summer, or even a client of mine in Brighton, they don't own that property, but they're definitely attracting very, very high nightly rates. Reality is you need to understand which way you want to go for, because at the end of the day, the bottom line is going to be profit. Also think about how you've got a startup cost, because at the end of the day, you've invested that property, you've got that property now, but you also need to, on a normal let, you might turn around and say, actually, Piers, I'm just going to put it out there and unfurnished, and you get a family who's going to furnish itself. Whereas in this case, you've got to have a high standard furnishing. If you haven't done it before, obviously you feel like you've spent a lot of money, and as a landlord that could feel like you've spent a lot of money. Reality is actually by doing that, you have a lot more opportunity to earn more cash flow. You know, the furnitures at the end of the day do hold, depending on what you buy, do hold their value. So it is a part of asset to the business. Obviously, it's a wear and tear. Some of them you're going to lose money with, some of them you are going to keep money with. And the last thing is just the legals behind it, because at the end of the day, you are running as a business. You know, are you going to set up a company that's going to allow you to run it as a business? Are you going to use as a self-assessment or self-employed? It's totally up to you, entirely up to you. But the reality is, again, knowing the legals, like even data protection, a lot of people don't register themselves as ICO. I work with a lot of people or landlords or rent-to-rent clients who's gone through some kind of mentorship. They forget to register the ICO. Now, if I'm telling them, look, we've got you a direct booking, you need to go and get yourself a ICO right now, because you're going to ask a guest for ID tomorrow, and if you're not data protected, you know, you shouldn't be doing that. So little things like that is what's very much important in the business. So, you know, normally I look at, and if you've watched my previous videos around SA or service accommodation or Airbnb business, I've got people in the business who allows you to run the business smoothly. You've got brand and marketing on top right hand corner, which obviously, as a part of many operators around the world, we're very, very grateful that we come and work with you. We actually do the work for you. We are effectively your marketing team in the business. On the bottom left, you're looking at operationals and legals. So anything to do with operational and legals in the Airbnb business. And on the right hand side, where you make your money, right? Your sales and performance. So quite interesting way to look at strategy. So in this video, now I'm going to share you my screen. I'm going to show you two landlords. I don't mind sharing the location. Obviously, it all depends on how people buy their property. I'm not going to give the location away, but it gives an understanding of why this person who owns their property turned them into a short-term rental or Airbnb makes a lot more money than somebody who's got a rent-to-rent. So I don't know if you know what rent-to-rent is. If you follow some of my video, you probably know that people also re-rent it as a short-term rental with the right agreement, the right legals. But let's watch this, and hopefully gives you an understanding of two different properties, two different type, two different location, and two different break-even number. So as you can see from my screen, this one, the profit price in, or the way I look at break-even, the mortgage on this property is £320. It's actually a 3-bed house in Hull. Now, council tax or business rate effectively will be 120 at later date, or 0 depending on once they apply for business rate. Utilities sat around £200. Wi-Fi is going to be 35. Any other fixed expenses at the moment, they don't. They're sitting about 675 on fixed expenses. Obviously, the variable costs, a lot of things like housekeeping team, commission will be coming in place, but so 675 is what they're looking at break-even number, versus if somebody has to, if you think about it, if somebody has to let it out on a normal basis, they're probably looking at just letting out the property on a rent-to-rent basis for anywhere, we looked online, around £850 to £900 on flat, plus the council tax, plus the utilities, plus the Wi-Fi. They'll be sitting anywhere from £1,250 all the way to £1,400, depending on the location, depending on the rental. Now, for somebody who can achieve that same results, or in a short-term rent market for 675 break even, the next person doing a rent-to-rent would probably be sitting around £1,250, which is double the amount, or at least 45% up. So you can see why the landlord is actually making a lot more profit at the end because of the rent-to-rent, the rent-to-rent, as well as the expenses. We'll also look at another example of a recent landlord that I've worked in, Stevenage. Her mortgage is £300, her service charge £135. Obviously, being a flat, is, believe it or not, a 1-bed flat. So you can see how a purchase in Hull for a 3-bed on a on an interest-only mortgage 320 to somebody who's buying a one-bed apartment in Stevenage, that her mortgage is about £300. Obviously, being a flat, the service fee is £135, the council tax £140, so it's got insurance for £10, broadband for £27, and all in all, we're looking around our utilities about £150. We're looking at £758 as a fixed, roughly around the fixed expenses. Both of them in their first month have achieved over £1,000 net profit minimum. And that says a lot about the market for them, because they don't have to charge as much as what the rent-to-rent clients would. So going back into what we've just mentioned, how can landlord, all of a sudden, they've been a landlord who have done buy-to-let, today now are walking with £1,000 net profit per property. So some of the other things I do want to mention out there, obviously if you're watching my video, there's many other videos I've done for you to understand about, just being an Airbnb owner. Doesn't mean you have to own the property or do rent-to-rent. There's some safety things that you've got to consider. There's some essential amenities you've got to consider, running an Airbnb property, a short-term rental property. But guys, at the end of the day, you need to understand your client avatar, or the guest that wants to book with you, because eventually if you're watching my video, you probably are ready, or you are looking to start your short-term rental business in coming days. I just want to make sure that through our videos, it gives you an understanding how it can be, we make it sound easy, but also at the same time, we're currently working in probably accounts in total of anywhere between 200 properties right now, in a mixture of big clients and small clients, and we get to see every single property in its best, how they've set up in terms of their bed settings, what's been written in the listing, where have they advertised, what kind of guest have they previously served, how can we change their guest behaviors, is there a market for different type of guests, and eventually understanding the whole process behind it. Now look, if you're looking to work with us, if you want to know more about us, I'm going to leave a link down below with growyourbnb.com. You can go, book a call with myself or my team, and we'll run through all our services provided. So guys, I hope you have enjoyed another Grow Your B&B video. Look, I'd love you to make sure you hit that like, subscribe and share, and we will be back with another video soon.